Hey everyone, Coach Dave March here, and here for another episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. And today we have a special guest. But if you're not aware of who we are, what we do here, I'm David March. I've been an author of the book Vision in Action, and talk to different entrepreneurs, different leaders in the industry, about their business and really about their journey. My special guest today is Hari Gupta. He is the SVP of Engineering at Bullwhip. Hari, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate the invite. Yeah, so I'm the SVP of engineering at Bullwhip. Bullwhip is an AI-enabled platform for data analytics and audience growth for commerce content publishers. We provide a bunch of services, and it eventually the goal of the platform is to be a brand-supported content distribution platform, creating a win-win for multiple parties.
Awesome. That's what I'm all about, creating win-win relationships. So, as we kind of get into this, tell us a little bit how you got into the engineering space. I mean, you weren't just you didn't just pop up being a senior VP of engineering. So, what was that journey like?
I've been in this space for over a decade. I, I I mean, I always knew I loved computer science and software engineering growing up, like in school, and I kind of knew that's where my career will be. I started my career in India, where I worked for two different startups back in like 2013. While I was working there, you always hear about like Silicon Valley and the kind of companies and the kind of like engineers and the kind of work you can do in Silicon Valley. So I wanted to come here, and so like around 20 in 2015, I started my career at MyFitnessPal, which was a startup leading in the space of health and fitness apps. And I think it was the biggest app at the time, and I think it still is. So I started my career at MyFitnessPal. At another startup next door after that. Did engineering in like different domains, all the way from like machine learning engineering, data engineering, and then a bit of data science to even front end and back end engineering, and then started like converging more towards back-end engineering, like core back-end engineering. I did a lot of that at Lyft and Instacart. And then about a year and a half ago, I joined Bullwhip as the technical co-founder because
Awesome.
the problems space was interesting, both from an engineering perspective and also like from the product perspective and the kind of business impact it can have.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I constantly see, with engineering and with even with my own business, there's always a need to some kind of architect, some kind of person that's going to be, at the top, kind of looking at things and trying to figure things out to really put things together, right? So, especially when you're doing engineering and working with different problems, working with different people, there's a need for someone to be kind of overlooking the whole situation and connecting it back to the problems that you're solving. Right. So when you think about the kind of problems that you solve and how you play as an architect in the company, what does that look like? How does that manifest itself?
uh, I, I I think there are different roles that you have to take on as as an engineering leader. Depending on this, it's first and foremost, yes, as you said, you have to be the architect. Like you have to be the architect of like, okay, this is the end goal of the product. This is the end goal of the business. You have to like, and this is the engineering infra setup we need. This is the kind of team, like this is the size of the team, and this is like the expertise in the team you need to have, and then create a path of like how do we get there. And especially for a startup like ours, like where like it's when you're working on like a seed stage or like like a very very early stage startup, you have to start at the point where you implement a lot of things, you set the foundation, and then you at the same time you're also thinking about like, okay, a few months down the line, you hire this kind of person, like with this expertise. This is the culture and this is the process you establish within the team. So it's like a step-by-step process, and like and your role kind of keeps on evolving. I've been at it for a year and a half at the startup, and here like even though the team has grown to like over 10 people now, it's still even at this scale still requires me to do execution like by myself a lot. Like and I still you at this stage the organization and the engineering setup is not so big that you lose like you lose touch of like different corners. You still have to know about everything, and you still have to be the person who can make like best technical decisions. Over time, like you start giving away those like different smaller chunks of like technical decisions to your team, and yeah, and hopefully we continue growing further, and like then and the role evolves even further. But at any scale, at any step, you still need to have like the overall like view of what your team and what your organization is doing and what the business is doing. So it's like it's kind of like it's kind of being like an overall architect of multiple things. Before this role, I was more of like an engineering architect, like I'm responsible for this particular service or this particular product, and making sure the engineering, like the engineering setup, just required to power it, like works and like and can works now, works in the future. Like you can kind of estimate the needs of the of the engineering setup in the future, but it's still limited to more like just thinking about the engineering uh engineering systems, not beyond it. Now I have to think beyond it. So now I'm
Yeah.
like the architect of like the overall organization. Yeah.
Yeah. Which yeah, definitely it's more comprehensive for sure. There's a lot more moving pieces there. And I mean I tend to think that, in the role that you're in now where you're more, comprehensive, it does sound a little bit more like what the role I'm in is more like a career coach, business coach, or even leadership coach, when in that capacity. Mostly because in all these circumstances and all these situations, it's really all about building a brand. And when you're building out a brand, it's important to really architect it in a way that is showing people your greatest strengths and the relatability to the kind of person that you're looking to attract back. Because essentially the idea with branding is you want to share a particular profile, particular image, which is going to reflect back to people that you're the man or you're the woman for this particular task. And, in doing that, I think the hardest part is getting a third person view on yourself, because most of the time when you're working, you're really focused on whatever you're doing. You might have some blinders on, and I think that could be true with a lot of things in business too. When you're really focused, you got some blinders on, you don't necessarily freely associate and freely see all the different things that are going around you, right? And when you're able to do that, when you're able to use that level of creativity, you can actually create better problem solving. Now, do you see that in the coding, where people just get like lost in the code and they start not seeing all the other possibilities that are around it?
Yeah, yeah, I think as your yeah, so I think even in engineering, like as you gain more experience, you learn that yeah, you can't, what separates like the different levels of, there are levels that are often associated with different engineering roles, and like the more you progress through levels, the more you understand there's a bigger vision, and you don't just focus on this very narrow thing. Yeah, so I think yes, it's very easy to get lost in like a narrow domain, even for me, like even though I have this experience and I'm supposed to like not just have my blinders on and focus on and take a step back and take a look at the whole view. I think maybe I'm not sure if it's in my nature, or like it's like your engineering as a domain kind of trains you for it, but you become hyper focused on a problem. And I think because of my experience, and because of like I think that sometimes like I guess the disadvantages I've already experienced in like experienced, I think right now I have the process of collecting feedback. Like if it's as an individual, I have that right now from my team, from customers, from both the engineering and non-technical team inside the company. And I try to instill the same culture in the engineering team, where like in engineering, you have this code review process where you kind of get feedback. So you can get, that's like the micro level of like getting feedback. But at the same time, we have these like engineering review sessions. So our ARC review sessions where like individual team members can get feedback too. I think so. Feedback is like the feedback and is or creating like avenues of feedback is like maybe a way to not be hyper focused. And I think overall like it just really depends on your role and like the scope of your job, like at how hyper focused you're going to be. For me, like I have to I really have to take a step back and like think through, like I guess not just dive into the problem anymore. I have to think about the longer term impact about like every single action.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, yeah, That's why I think my skill set is definitely at too. I'm more on the strategic side, able to kind of take a step back and see what the broader vision is. And then, yeah, that offers opportunities for coaching, offers opportunities for feedback, and that's essentially how people can grow, right? Kind of, see things a little differently, and also gain from your experience. So, going through that whole process, having someone that is kind of that higher level architect that understands the bigger picture. Sometimes if they're really focused on the minute details or hyper focus, they may not see what all this work that they're doing is going towards. And for some people, that's motivation. For some people, there's motivation in understanding, okay, I'm building this piece because it's adding up to this larger vision or larger solution to a bigger problem. So that can be really motivational as well. So yeah, that's a really big piece. Now, as we kind of switch this into the idea of AI and ChatGPT and everything, and how both the content space and the coding space are really being transformed with ChatGPT and different types of AI. A lot of people think that, though, well, the ChatGPT is going to take over, or not just ChatGPT, all the other LLMs too. It's not just ChatGPT, but they're going to take over all the coding that's going to be done, and then people are going to be left out, losing jobs and such. What are your thoughts on that whole thing, Harry?
Yeah, so there's certain, I think I see it as more as right now, at least the current state of the AI tools, like not just ChatGPT and the chat tools, but also, the coding tools like Cursor and like a bunch of other tools that exist right now. The impact that I see is like, it's not really replacing my team's work. It's more augmenting it. It's more creating leverage. At least that's the state right now. I think if I zoom back, and yeah, I think like if I think about organizations which are like which have hundreds of or thousands of people, in that case, yes, like creating more leverage and without increasing the scope of work, like kind of basically means that you reduce headcount. Or it can mean that like now engineering leaders or the organization leaders are empowered to, go after bigger goals. So I think it will be a mix of both. And I think there is an impact on the job market, and I'm sure like we'll see maybe more of an impact in the short term and the next couple of years or longer or more years. It's yeah, so it's now I have to think about I guess you can think about whether as an individual what you should do in these uncertain times. Like, we know there's an impact. We know there's both a positive impact on like the net productivity and the net like creation of things. Certainly, like at least in the short term in specific roles, like the reduction of jobs. So as an individual, no one. I mean, we can have all kinds of prediction, but no one really knows like exactly how it plays out. So as an individual, what I suggest to most people is like you just have to it's like it's a huge transformation that's going on, and you have to and there are no clear there are like well there are already people are working on like creating playbooks, but things are changing every day. So as an individual, you have to be on the forefront of like of um of the tools that are out there and like how to use them. As an engineer, you certainly have to be using like the latest version of every tool and keep a lookout on like of different things. And I think that's the way to navigate maybe the next few months of this year or like even like next year. Yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I'm happy to like d- d- uh,
For sure.
dive
Yeah,
further into one of these sections if you want.
yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. Yeah, you know the world is definitely changing with ChatGPT and all these different types of coding tools that are out there to support. I think just going back to our central point here, these type of tools, it's not going to replace someone, because they still need to still needs to be some kind of person that's overseeing it. I mean, when you talk about content, let's say I have a piece of content out there that I put into ChatGPT. um it doesn't stand its ground too well, in the sense of, okay, now I'm gonna send this content, oh, this piece of content is too defensive, and then you say, and chat would go back saying, okay, it's very defensive, it's this and this. It's like, well, no, it's not defensive. Okay, it's not defensive. So it's kind of, it has a leniency to please you, instead of kind of be more of a truth seeker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so it's like it's again, like as I said, like it's augments and leverages what you do, but it's like it's really the scope of like how well it does it, or like how well it does it, like it really depends on how you use it, like and how you prompt it, like
How you prompt it.
yeah, and again, there are people are building like there are so many AI tools and companies already out there which are trying to build like a layer above it, which where like maybe there's like for the case of like this scenario where you talked about you're trying to get feedback on a content, and it's like it's basically just trying to please you. Maybe you can build like there are companies and people who will try to build a layer on top of it where they will try to adjust adjust its bias, like it's not they try to tweak it so that it does not does not try to please you. Anyway, so in any of the case, like even if you build more and more layers, at the end there has to be a person who approves or disapproves it, and you have to be that person, and or your team has to be that person. And so human judgment is like a very important piece in this loop. And I think I see it being there for some time. Like at least all the coding and agent tools, like they can provide like output, really good output, and they can create like good code and systems for for things that are like simple enough. But like as soon as it becomes like like a level more complicated, it doesn't do like the you still have to audit the result, and you still have to tweak it a bit. And I'm not saying that it will forever be the case, because like as the context window of these things and the capability of like all of these tools increase, like I think that that gap will be like just keep on shrinking. But I don't see it like going away anytime. Like the need of a final like someone who someone like person auditing the result, and like the piece of like human judgment in this loop, like I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a really good point. I mean, we got to stay human. To stay human for sure. Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think this is a great conversation, and we covered some really good topics. As we kind of go to the end of this episode here, is there any books that you've read or any kind of quotes that come to mind about either coding or leadership or engineering that you'd want to share with the audience here, um, as a kind of a final encouragement, if you will?
I don't know if I have a quote or a book, but like if I think for people, I hope like I hope the people can like who are like who are aspiring engineers, or like or even like engineers who already engineers who are currently working, like if they're listening to this episode, my I guess I can share the things that they refer these days. So I like to stay up to date with not just like or the industry, but also like kind of like I like to be up to date with like the kind of tools that are out there, or like the and like and at the same time also follow certain newsletters to get like more advice on like on my role, and just expand my knowledge and learning. I like reading this newsletter, the Pragmatic Engineer. This is one of those. Like there's another one called Byte Go, which is more engineering architecture oriented. I guess recently, and I like to read like just blogs by like well-known industry professionals. There's like this blog by Steve Yegi called Revenge of the Junior Developer, which I think is one of the best blogs that I've read, which kind of tells you what's happening with the AI tools and what will happen in the next few years, and then how you position yourself to like as an engineer, as a developer, how do you position yourself to like get the best out of this? Yeah, I guess like and there's another book I'm looking forward to reading soon, which is this book called it's called Vibe Coding, and also by Steve Yegi. It's this one again seems like to be interesting, and will hopefully prepare me and like engineering professionals better for the space. Yeah, and I think there are a lot of there are a lot of I think YouTube content creators who talk like a lot about the AI space and the tools right now. Riley Brown is one of them. So I think it's just like I think my advice to most people right now is like, yeah, you should refer to all the standard books for your fundamentals, but follow follow creators on, like, on creators on Substack or YouTube or wherever, where like people are creating like more frequent contents, and figure out what works best for you. But like, because the space is changing so fast that you can't like refer a book that's like a book or something that you read like 2 years ago. I unfortunately don't have a code to go right now, but yeah.
All good, all good.
Yeah.
But hey, those are some great resources you've shared. So I appreciate that. I think the audience is really going to gain a lot from that. As we close here, is there a way where people could find you, Harry? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. My username is Hari K Gupta, or you can just search for Hari Gupta, and like with Bullwhip, I'm sure I'll appear. Or you can reach out to hari@bullwhip.io.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks for joining the show today. I appreciate you. If you're, if you're interested in some more episodes, we're on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is the most popular option. But for now, thanks for your attention, everyone, and have a great day. Bye bye.